Hi guys and welcome back. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make the best chocolate cake. Let's begin. To get started on the recipe, you'll want to grab yourself a mixing bowl, and into the mixing bowl go ahead and place in your butter followed by the granulated sugar, and then beat the two together until they are lighter and fluffier and very well combined. Once you've achieved light and fluffy, you can then go ahead and give the bowl a good scraping down. This is just to help incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on, so make sure you get the top of the bowl and the bottom. Then you can go ahead and add in your eggs one at a time, beating well in between each addition, and on the first egg you'll also want to add in the vanilla. Just mix them in until they're fully incorporated. You will notice the consistency of the mixture changing. This is completely normal. You will then want to go ahead and give the bowl a good scraping down. This is just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. Then you can go ahead and grab a sieve and pass your flour, salt, baking powder and cocoa powder through it to remove any lumps that may be in the dry mixes. Sometimes dry mixes can be quite prolific for having lumps in, like as you can tell in the sieve. You want to incorporate that on a low speed to start with, working out to a medium high once the flour has almost fully incorporated. Add some milk if the consistency doesn't look perfect. Give the bowl a good scraping down. This is just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. Then you can split the cake batter between your two cake tins, which you have lined previously before starting. Fill them around 3/4 of the way full, that way they'll rise perfectly to the top. You can always weigh the batter out if you want a more accurate result, but I just eyeballed it and it turned out fine on this occasion. Then just level off the cake batter so it's a bit more level and it'll bake a bit more consistently. You can then go ahead and place these into your preheated oven and bake them off. All of that information will be on the blog post, which I will leave linked down below. So to make the chocolate buttercream, you'll want to grab yourself a small bowl, placing the cocoa powder in enough hot water to make it more of a liquid. This way you won't have to add any milk later on. Set this aside until it's cool. To start on the buttercream, you'll want to grab a mixing bowl and place in your butter, and just beat this on its own for around 5 to 7 minutes or until it's lighter and fluffier in colour and consistency. It may take more or less time depending on where you are. Give the bowl a good scraping down just to incorporate any bits of the butter that may not have been fully worked into the mixture early on. Then you can go ahead and add in half of your icing sugar, and it will be quite messy at this stage, but don't worry. Start the mixer on a low speed, working back to a medium high speed once the sugar has incorporated. If you do it before then, you're going to end up with your whole kitchen looking like it's been coated from one giant sift of the icing sugar. Give the bowl a quick scraping down just to incorporate any bits that may not have been fully worked in from earlier on. Then add in your other half of icing sugar and repeat the same process, but don't do what I do and don't put it all in too quickly, otherwise you'll end up with a mess like that. Mix it until it's fully incorporated, then you can go ahead and add in the chocolate mixture that you prepared earlier on. Continue mixing it together until it's smooth and glossy, then set into a bowl and set it. Once your cakes are baked and cooled, you can then level them off. So take a cake leveler and just level off the top so they are more level, and then you'll want to repeat the process again by halving the cakes again, so then you have 4 layers of cake in total rather than 2. Brush them over with a generous amount of the vanilla simple syrup, then you can start the assembly. So take your plate, board or stand and place a small amount of buttercream into the centre and smear it on. Place your first layer of cake on, pressing it into place. Then top that with some of the buttercream that you've just made, and just spread it out until you've got a pretty consistent level. You don't want it to be too bumpy, otherwise it will make the cake rise in one area and not in another. Spread it out until you've got it perfectly consistent. Then you can add a generous amount of caramel into the centre. You don't have to do this, you could use jams, but chocolate and jam just don't go for me, so don't do that. Use something like a caramel or something else. Then you'll just want to continue the process with the other layers of cake, so it'll be cake, buttercream, caramel, and repeat that until you've got to your top layer. You can now go ahead and give the cake a crumb coat. This is just a thin layer of buttercream to lock any crumbs from the cake in so they don't ruin your final coating of buttercream. Smooth it out as best as you possibly can, then place into the fridge to firm up for around 40 minutes. So with the remaining buttercream, go ahead and give the cake a final coat of buttercream. You'll just want to place as much on there as you possibly can, as you can scrape off the excess if you don't want it all on there. So just spread it on the sides and level it off on top. And then once you've got to the smoothness and however you want it to look, you're good to go. Now you could pipe rosettes on top and do a chocolate drip, but keeping it very simple would be to just do a simple decoration. So for the top, I'm just doing a simple swirl, which is using a palette knife, and I'm just digging it into the buttercream and turning the cake. So I've got this swirl. These are seen on most bakery style cakes. Again, it's completely optional. But then to finish a cake, it looks a bit plain, so use some chocolate sprinkles to go around the bottom edge of the cake, just to add a bit of colour and to break up the one colour of the cake. And instead of eating all of the cake scraps that you had from levelling the cakes off, you can go ahead and crumble them up and then just sprinkle them around the edge of the cake. It just adds a bit of colour and texture to the cake. Place it into the fridge to firm up for around half an hour, 40 minutes, then you're good to go and cut it up. So here is what the cake looks like once it's done for me. The buttercream should go a bit more matte in finish, that's completely fine. And here is what it looks like on the inside. You get 4 layers of cake and it's very light and fluffy, and the buttercream isn't overly sweet because of the cocoa powder that I used, and I used the Cocoa Runners cocoa powder, so feel free to check that out. I will leave a link in the description down below, which is an affiliate link if you are interested. So thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more from me, and I'll be back again tomorrow with another recipe, so join me then. In the meanwhile, don't forget to check out the description. There'll be links to this recipe, a link to my blog, and links to all my social medias where I'm trying to post more frequently, so don't forget to go and follow me over on there. But I hope you enjoyed, and that's all for today. Bye guys.